Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's Force Space. Thank you for joining us for today's event, Creative Futures, Careers in Art. Now to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube, live from Force Space, and we are located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Trocheleau, Montreal. Here at Force Space, we work with our university community to help mobilize knowledge, co-creating daily activities that examine research questions, projects, things happening across the university. We are running today's event also as a live stream Zoom meeting. So those of you joining us there, if you have comments or questions, pop those into the chat and we'll read those out later on. And those of you here in the space as well, if you have any comments or questions later, just raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone over to you so that everyone can hear. And with that, it's my pleasure to pass the microphone over to co-president of Concordi'art, Molly Sturge. Marley, welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for that introduction. Thanks to Force Space for collaborating with us on this event today. I'm part of the CSU organization Concordi'art. We aim to connect art students and have them be able to put their business shoes on and organize events such as this to have like real-world experience with creative and professional endeavors. So I'm looking forward to talking with all of you today and hearing from our guest speakers and the audience about all the different paths that are available to people that are interested in creative fields. And I would like to thank everyone who made this possible today, you guys, the panelists, and our team. And I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's questions. So I'm going to pass it on to our panelists who are going to tell you guys a bit about themselves and about their career and how they got to where they are. So I'm going to pass this on to Audrey to start us off. Thanks, Audrey.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Audrey. I'm a 23 years old artist from Montreal. I'm a full-time artist. And well, to tell you a bit about my journey, well, also as you can hear, my first language is French, so please be patient with me. So I started painting when I was around, I've always done art in my life, but I started to paint more seriously when I was around 18 years old. And at that time, I was in Concordia in studio arts too, but it was during COVID and it was all online classes, so it wasn't really my thing. And at the same time, I heard about something called La Factory, which is a school of science of creativity. So I did that. I stopped fine arts to do this thing for a year. And during that time, I started painting, and I took it more seriously. And I started to do some sales and have more clients other than just my circle, so clients a bit all over the world also. So once I stopped La Factory, I did full-time. I started to do full-time painting. So I did that for like a year or two, and it was really fun, obviously. So yeah, I did that for a year or 2 years full time. And one thing that really helped me with my career was social medias. So I actually started painting by posting a lot of my paintings on Instagram. And that's how I grew an audience and found clients like other than my circle. And so I did my first also big commissions. I did some paintings for like other countries too, and then I started to do some collaborations. So I did, as you can see in this picture, two of my biggest partnership from last year. One was with the Royal Mount, so that's like a commercial center in Montreal. So that's a big painting. It's a 20 inches painting that I did like 2 years ago, and they took this painting and they printed it on 20 feet. So it's like a big painting. So it's in Royal Mount right now. Yes, there. And the other one, I did a few partnerships with the Four Seasons Hotel last year. So this is when I had one of my painting exhibited there. I did a few live painting there also. That's something I really like to do, to go like in random places and paint there. So I did a few live paintings in the Four Seasons. I had a few paintings also exhibited there. And I'm also represented by a gallery here in Montreal. So since about a year, it's called Maison qui accueille, and it's like a 5 minutes walk from here. So once I started working with them, it was really clear to me that I still wanted my independency. I didn't want them to just take my paintings, do their sales, and like move on, because I think that's kind of a cold approach for me, and I really like to, to do my own thing, to do my own collaborations, like with the Royal Mount and more. So with them, I have like a deal that I have exhibition with them. I did 2 exhibitions last year with them, and I also do my thing on my own. So I still can do like my collaborations. I can write to like people that I want to work with. So we have a good relationship like that. And I did, so those are like the 2, well, those are not the exhibitions, but we had like concepts around them, because once again, I didn't want them to just take my painting, put them on a wall, make sales, and that's it. So we wanted to do like an event around it, to have a history behind it. So the picture on the right is the first exhibition I did with them a year ago. The concept was that I wanted to live in the gallery for like 48 hours to really immerse myself. So that was my setup with my sleeping bag. That's where I slept. And I had my easel, and I just painted for 48 hours, and anyone could see me, because there's like windows on the other side, and it's on Sherbrooke, so there's a lot of people. So I just stayed there for 48 hours, did a lot of paintings there, and those paintings were exhibited during the exhibition. And the other picture is exhibition I finished last November, so it's recent. And for this one, they sent me a bit all over Quebec in random places. So they told me in the morning, you need to go there today at 12. So I went and I painted there. So I had some stuff with me. So for example, this is in TNM, Le Théâtre du Nouveau Monde. So I painted, like I just arrived to the place, showed up there, did like 4 hours of painting. And then those paintings were also for the exhibition. So it's a fun way to let like creative space inspire me other than my studio. And also, I noticed since like a year or 2 that a lot of artists are struggling with the business side, if you want, of the artist's job. And I kind of like this business side as well, and talking with people, and showing my art and doing collaborations, and etc. So I wanted to help some artists to do that. So since like a year, I launched a business called AE Consultation. And I've been helping artists with their art. So now I'm doing it more officially in 2025. But I have artists a bit in Europe, a bit in Canada, where I help them with their social medias and everything. So that's last December, I went to Quebec. I was invited by the city of Quebec to give a course, an 8-hour course on how to do an exhibition. So I give that. So I want to help those people who doesn't like the business side of it, because there's a lot of artists, and that's fair, but I like this part, so I just wanted to help them with that. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Thank you for that. That was great. And now we're going to hear from David, who is a curator, writer, director, and artist, of course. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming here. And thanks very much, Audrey. I started as an artist, so I'm always, really excited, or even, jealous to hear about people still working as artists. I started drawing and painting from my earliest memory. But as I made my way through school in Hamilton, Ontario, it wasn't necessarily something that was encouraged. And so when I left high school, I ended up traveling a lot. I also worked in factories in and around Hamilton. I'm a former member of the United Steelworkers of America, Local 1005. Before I discovered art, I started taking courses at the Dundas Valley School of Art, and there I did workshops with some amazing artists that inspired me, and that's when I discovered contemporary art and artists that actually made a living as artists. And so I was inspired then to apply to university, where I attended Concordia. I have a BFA in painting and printmaking, and I think I'm only 1 credit short for an art history degree. But I started right here. And in I think it was my first or second year here, I started doing some research for Dr. Catherine McKenzie, who was one of my professors, doing research for her as a research assistant in art history, and also because I did have some background in construction work. They needed installers at the Concordi'art Gallery. The Concordi'art Gallery used to be in the Hall building across the way. So I worked there installing art exhibitions, and I met a number of artists there, and then I became familiar over the years with how exhibitions are organized, how they're run, the discourse and dialogues between artists, curators, institutions. And then working with the director of the gallery at the time, Sandra Pekowski, we started to design and plan the move from the Concordi'art Gallery to the Leonard and Bina Ellen Art Gallery, which is across the hall. So this is kind of a poignant moment for me to be here, right across the hall from that space, which I actually helped design. With Sandra Pekowski and the architects, and then moved the Concordia entire collection from that building to this building over here. Also, in the meantime, I was living in Old Montreal, and back in the day when Old Montreal was nearly abandoned, I and many of my friends and colleagues, including Pascal Girardin, had fantastic studios down there, and we started self-organizing exhibitions in warehouse spaces. I was also somewhat involved at the time in the music that was going on here, and so we would organize events and get bands to play at the openings, and these became quite exciting, big events in the art scene here in Montreal. In these warehouse spaces. And then at some point, I was contacted by the gallery of the Saeid Bronfman Center, which was up on Côte de Neige. And they were looking for a curator, a director and a curator, and they thought that some of these projects I and we were doing in Old Montreal were quite exciting. They wanted to bring that kind of an energy to the institution, and I was encouraged to apply for that job, which I didn't think I had any hope of. At that point, I was working as an artist, as an installer. I worked for art consultants. I worked for the Canada Council Art Bank, installing art exhibitions. At some point, the Art Bank had projects across Canada. I was traveling to Vancouver and Winnipeg and Toronto and Quebec City, setting up exhibitions for the Canada Council Art Bank. So I got to know a lot of people in the art community across the country. I got to become familiar with the collection of the Art Bank. And so I was meeting a lot of people that way. So by that time, I was also writing too. I should mention that I started writing for a music paper, Rearguard, which was organized out of the CRSG radio station here. So I had some writing experience, mostly in music. But then, I'm just trying to cut the story a little bit short here, I was hired to write art reviews for the Montreal Gazette. So I did write art reviews for the Gazette for a couple of years. So at this point, I realized that if I was going to survive in the art world, I felt I had to know every aspect of the art world. So I was a practitioner in art, mostly painting, printmaking. I'd also done video as well. I started writing. As I said, I was working in the gallery, so I understood how galleries and administration worked. I also started contributing research to grants and sponsorship proposals. So I was really starting to learn quite a bit about the industry, let's say. And then, given though my, I would say, really lack of focused credentials, I did get the job as the director and curator at the Gallery of the Saeid Bronfman Center. And I was there for 5 years organizing exhibitions in Montreal with local, national, international artists. Did a couple of projects internationally as well in Europe and Asia. And then in the year 2000, I got a call from the city of Toronto who wanted to start a contemporary art museum in Toronto. So then in the year 2000, I moved to Toronto to start the Museum of Contemporary Canadian Art, which started in North York, Ontario. Then I moved it down to Queen Street West. Then we changed the name to Museum of Contemporary Art Toronto, which is on Sterling Road in a permanent home in Toronto. And so just a few years ago, once that was up and running, I'd had enough of working like a slave for institutions, and I've gone back to working independently. So right now I feel like I'm back at my roots. I install exhibitions, I'm curating exhibitions. One just opened last week at the Concordi'art. I wanted to mention that because the artist is Adam Wolfond, who is a non-speaking autistic artist who just successfully defended his thesis with this exhibition in Toronto as a student at Concordi'art University. So Concordia made an accommodation for Adam, a non-speaking autistic person. If you can imagine, it's quite a commitment and dedication on the part of the professor, Aaron Manning, and the university here. So that exhibition opened last week, and so I'm also working independently, installing exhibitions, working as an artist, scrambling, hustling, trying to survive in the art world. I'm back to my roots here.
Thank you, David. That was great. I can't wait to check out that exhibition when we're done here.
And I forgot to run through all the slides I had there, which included some images of that exhibition.
Thank you. So we're now going to go to Pascal, who is a ceramicist, designer, artist. I'm sure you can tell us more about that. Thank you.
Hi. It's really interesting to listen to someone who's 23 and someone who's ... a little bit older. And thank you for sharing. It's really inspiring. Am I close enough to the mic?
You're great.
Okay. So I'm a ceramic artist, and I started out before my career. When I was younger, I was really interested in health science and sports, and so I was really. I started university in biology. I was on the badminton team, and I really thought I would get into a career of ecology, and I stopped short because two of my friends who were at that within about 6 months told me, "What are you doing here? You should be in the field of art," which I had no. I used to draw and paint and do all those things like all the little kids do, and I'm sure many of you, when you were in grade school, they'd point to you as the one who would draw whatever it was that was required for the class. So the class artist or something. But I really felt like an imposter when I started at Concordia. So I didn't know what to do because I was used to having teachers telling me what to do, or working on research, wearing a lab coat and waiting for instructions. So it was really hard for me actually to start my career as an artist and to generate ideas. And I didn't know how to do that actually. It took me probably about 15 years to really understand that was the process, that you had to, just go inside and look and see what was there and what needed to come out, I guess. But anyway, so I did do my BFA over a period of 10 years because I dropped out after a year and a half. I was very confused about painting, drawing, whatnot. I ended up traveling and coming back, and I always wanted to be to study ceramics at Concordia, but it was always full. As many of you know, it's really hard to get into the classes I teach now at Concordia in ceramics. And anyway, so I ended up taking a class that was called. It was not a class. It was the the program is called DEP, which is a professional, it's like a trade school. So I went to a trade school in pottery, and then I applied, I ended up doing that and starting to do that as a full-time ceramicist. I guess I should show some pictures, I guess. I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. Yeah, is it showing something? Yeah? Oh, thanks. So now I've been working for 28 years doing this, which is hard to believe. But I have been interested during the time that I have been working doing ceramics. Sorry, I'm just really trying to get my head organized here. I started out doing tableware because I thought, well, that's practical and you can sell it and it's affordable. And so I quickly realized that they would be really hard to sell one bowl at a time and make a career out of it. So I started contacting restaurants and seeing if I could, actually make a business and produce more pieces and get a paycheck. So I did that for a very long time, and I have pretty much stopped doing that, or almost stopped now, but I still have a few clients, a few restaurants that I work with now. But doing the experience of pottery, it's really interesting because you learn a lot about design, ergonomics. You learn about things that craft, art, design. Everything seems to come together when you're doing pottery, and I think that sort of brought back also my interests in science, and ceramics is very science oriented. You need to understand really basic things like how glaze fits onto clay and shrinkage rates, etc. Anyway, so I find that the experience of starting out with sports and then science and then getting into art and getting interested in design and eventually ceramics is all there's a big whirlwind of activities that seem to all now how do you say? I'm sorry. They all come together. But also just on a career sort of direction, I guess a lot of the ways that I ended up doing larger pieces and public art is through trade shows. I did a lot of the interior design shows, and what I would do is rent a space, and it was basically renting my own white cube and then showing whatever it is I wanted to show there. So these are some of the examples of. So I wasn't signaling that I wanted to sell anything. I just wanted to show what was going on in my mind, kind of thing. So that does work because I think if you want people to be interested in your work, I think you just really need to just show what you want and not worry too much about trends or if it's going to sell or not. That's kind of the direction I've gone. Sorry. And this is my studio now. So I worked 9 years in a basement in a small bungalow. Now I have a large studio, and I have windows, and I can see outside, and I have staff. But anyway, I'll let other people talk about what they do. I'm not very good at this. Sorry.
No, thank you. That was great. I was wondering perhaps if you could tell us what restaurant has your stuff so we could have the chance to maybe see your work in person.
So there's Juni, which is a restaurant, is a Japanese restaurant that's on Laurier, and Le Toqué, which is in Old Montreal, and then there's Hoang and Beaufort, which is kind of near Hochelaga, and there's a few other ones, but those ones
Thank
are,
you.
yeah.
That's great.
Thanks.
And thank you for your story. Rodrigo, we're going to pass it to you now. Rodrigo's a researcher, curator, artist. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here, and it has been great to hear all of you. I am Brazilian, and that's the first thing that I feel like it's different from everyone here as well. So I had a different journey to be in the arts and to be here in Canada. I will begin by just like contextualizing what I'm doing right now, and then I will go in more like a non-linear presentation as well. Right now I am a PhD candidate since winter 2020 here in the art history department at Concordia. And I am also a part-time faculty in the art history department since winter 2023, where I teach the courses Brazilian art and video art, the dissident moving image. And I am also a part-time researcher in the visual arts department at Western University in London, Ontario, where I work remotely. I go there like once per semester. I'm going soon. Right now I am doing a collaboration there with Museum London as well, in a project called Brazilian Art in Canada, in which we are mapping the presence of Brazilian artists here in Canada, mainly in the provinces of Quebec, British Columbia, and Ontario. And I am co-curating a big exhibition, the biggest exhibition about Brazilian art in Canada ever done, that will open now in November in Museum London. I am really proud of this project. It's also in collaboration with Dr. Elena Robin, and that is the chair of the visual arts department at Western. And I'm also an independent curator and visual artist. So, but before that, before the bureaucracy and the institutional labels, I came from the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. I was born in Niterói, and then I was raised in Jacarepaguá. And then I moved to Brasilia with my family, the capital of Brazil. And I feel like these two cities somehow still inform my practice and who I am. Like Brasilia is a really weird city, a modernist city with huge scales, looks kind of like an Egyptian place with like huge monuments. And it was a huge contrast for me to move from Rio, which is like more tropical and more like, it's warmer in general, like people are warmer, the culture is warmer. So I feel like these two poles somehow of like different cultures inside of my own country impacted me. And they also inform my own imaginaries. And then like once I was always like a really creative child. I always dreamed a lot. So my dreams are still part of my creative process as well. They inform a lot of the images that I come up with in my artworks. I began by doing more drawings and paintings. I did my BFA at the University of Brasilia. Then I moved back to Rio to do my master's in the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, where I began to be more experimental. At some point, I also had a crisis with the art world, the art industry. And as we have seen, like it's something that's not linear. Sometimes we sell it like as like, oh yeah, like successful people in the arts, but it's something that's really oscillating, and we need to learn how to navigate these oscillations. And for me, it was kind of similar to David's experience. Like I had to learn to deal with many layers of works in the arts, to be able to stay in the culture realm. So I began like being a museum guide. I was an art educator. I worked as a receptionist in art galleries. And then I began to be more and more interested in academia. And I also realized my artworks were not commercial. So this at first was a shock for me also, and gave me kind of like an internal crisis, an existential crisis, because I was like, how can I survive? Because I love art. So how can I survive if I feel like my artworks are not commercial? So I began to be a really like alternative and independent cultural agent, and which meant centralizing many things, many functions. And it was really exhausting to do that. But it was really important because I learned a lot. So during my master's, I realized that I wanted to be a video artist, and I focused more in video. This poster right here on the left was the first movie that I have directed. It's called Ascension and Fall of the Bichas. Bichas in Portuguese means queer. And it was a collective effort with more than 30 Latin American artists. It was really intense to go through this experience. And then this movie also became kind of like a dissident platform to give protagonism for other BIPOC and queer artists through all sort of events, art exhibitions, catwalks, parties. And then I began to be more and more an independent video artist, sometimes doing all the functions, like performing, directing, being the cameraman, doing everything, editing, working on the sound production. All the posters, I did them myself. So it's like a whole body of work that I manifest because I love art and I wanna do my artistic practice. And then this led me to my current role here at Concordia, where I'm studying, I am mainly studying the Tupinambá legacies. The Tupinambá people were the main indigenous civilization in Brazil prior to the colonization process. I am studying how their material and immaterial legacies are being reactivated through contemporary Brazilian art, and how they can somehow collaborate with other dissident voices, which I consider like Afro-diaspora and queer identities as part of this dissident category. So how can we like all collaborate as dissident identities to disrupt colonial legacies through Brazilian contemporary art? And I am focusing a lot in the Tupinambá feather work practices, such as these examples here. I don't have the time to go through all of this, but I just brought like this small scheme of like key aspects of my territory. So like I always had a multidisciplinary approach, which includes different fields of knowledge and artistic media. I have always been interested in a lot of different languages, artistic languages, and a lot of people try to stop me from being a multidisciplinary person, because usually we need to be labeled as just one thing. But I never felt comfortable being labeled in just one category, and I kept going. I always had a dialogue between research, creation, and theory. I never divided these two categories. And this also informed my experimental curatorship process. And then, as I mentioned before, I needed to have this kind of mobility between different experiences in the art field in order to thrive and to actually have the baggage that I have right now, the knowledge that I have right now, to be able to teach and to be able to have a concise curatorial speech and so on. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to finish with Michael. And thank you for everyone's contribution so far.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my fellow panelists for this informative discussion. and thank you for the opportunity to come and speak.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm the co-proprietor of the Wishbone Art Gallery in Old Montreal. We've been open since September 2021. It was a post-COVID depression project for my wife and I. She's been a fine art photographer for over 10 years now, and we decided to take a chance at selling some of her photography and some pieces that I had sort of put together over a few years, and some people had accused it of being art. So we decided to open this lovely gallery space here on Notre Dame West. And David mentioned how Old Montreal is undergoing a renaissance for the past 20 years. This corner hadn't seen that renaissance just yet. It's starting to burgeon now since we have been there, which is great. There's galleries popping up, there's restaurants popping up across the street. So it's a lovely environment that we have found ourselves in. We originally did this, I won't be ashamed in saying, as a vanity project. A vanity gallery is when an artist decides to open their own gallery and sell their own wares. And we quickly became distracted by other more enticing artists and decided that we wanted to show off their work. And my wife is the director of the gallery, as well as our photographer. And she really scours the internet, the art magazines, the art world, art fairs for artists that she is passionate about. And she brings them to us here in Montreal. Currently, we have a very small stable of artists, under 10 artists that we work with and represent across the spectrum of the art world. But we do find ourselves in a position where we would like to give more of a voice to the non-traditional actors in the art game. It's usually been an overwhelmingly male dominated industry, and that's something that we're personally moving away from. It's just a choice that we have made as curators here at the gallery. So my day-to-day role at the gallery is more of a technical role. It's really more in building the infrastructures, in let's call it shipping, payments, hanging, going to the printers, to the framers. It's really the day-to-day grunt work that I perform. We have a very small team at the gallery. We're very family-oriented. My stepson, who is studying his marketing degree now, does everything that is commercial, product development, internet, Instagram, all our websites, all our payment platforms. He focuses on that. And as I mentioned, my wife curates the shows, puts them all together, decides what kind of fairs that we would like to present our wares at. And I think you mentioned previously how important the fairs were to the art business. Montreal is a challenging environment for, I think, any business. And very much so in the art business. We have a very small pool of art collectors here in Montreal and a very large ocean of artists at the same time. And we find ourselves in the position where, in order to survive as a gallery, we must step outside of Montreal. That is a necessity for us. As great as Montreal is as an incubator for small businesses, for small ideas, it's been very difficult for us to realize our scope staying here in Montreal. We've had a tremendous amount of success outside, in Toronto, in New York, some of the places that we've started moving to. And we enjoy very much being able to bring that experience back here to Montreal to share with sympathetic people. If I had any advice to young people deciding their course in life, try to focus on some of the aspects, some of the support aspects outside of the sort of main jobs. So a main job would be, I would like to be an artist. I would like to be a gallerist. There's a whole support system around these jobs that is crucial to anything that they do. So whether it's framers, whether it's giving courses for online presence, for boosting your online presence, whether it's curating, these are the support roles that are very much in demand, these B2B kind of businesses, as we call them, have a lot of potential in them, and that's something that I would encourage people to look into as a less obvious career choice, but certainly one that is highly in demand. I know on my daily basis I'm working with accountants, I'm working with payment systems, I'm working with online retailers, people that will help me streamline my business, and as a business I need that. So no matter what aspect, no matter what realm I am in, I need that support from others. So I don't want to take too much time, but I find myself here as a happy accident, and I never planned on being a gallerist. It's something I fell into. I had a tremendous amount of experience in the audiovisual realm. I worked construction. I worked teaching old ladies how to use their iPads, and all of these careers that I experienced brought me to where I am today in taking an idea and bringing it to fruition in a discussion around a dinner table saying, hey, let's open an art gallery, to procuring the space, building walls and shelving and whatnot, and being able to do the administration and the day-to-day. So all these little skills that seemingly led nowhere have brought me here. So anything that you guys are doing on a daily basis is relevant, will always be relevant, and you will find a way to capitalize on it. So I thank you guys again, and I leave it to you.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for giving us some insight into the more unseen things that go on in the art world. It's really great to hear. We're going to now move into some questions for you guys, and then we're going to turn to the audience as well and ask for some questions if they have any thoughts about what you've told us all today. So if it's okay, I'm going to start with you, Michael. I know you just were speaking, but I was just going to ask you if there are any events or places, initiatives in Montreal or Canada that have inspired you or inspired you in the past in the formation of your gallery and everything, your career?
I have to be careful in answering that because a lot of my inspiration comes from adversity. Okay. Without being specific or naming names, there are certain standards in the art industry that we as a young gallery have tried to ingratiate ourselves into. And these are institutions that will sit back and let you stew for a little while. Or they have these sort of imaginary hurdles that you must pass through that are not quite clear in order for you to make it to the next phase. So I would say that if I wanted to apply to Art Fair X and I have not been invited to participate in it, well, that will propel me into next year, I am going to make it. So a lot of our power has come from adversity and a struggle in the face of that.
Thank you for sharing that. It's great. So I'm going to move on to David here. David, I was wondering, you were speaking a bit about your background before studying, and I was just wondering if you have a specific non-artistic endeavor that sort of shaped or influenced your career later on that you like had no idea would impact you so much, maybe.
Well, maybe I guess who we are today is made up of everything that has come before today. I also grew up in sports culture, and because it was fun and all around me, but over time I've realized I learned a lot from that in terms of understanding how, let's say, systems work. Michael just made a reference to that. How to play games within systems. Also understanding that you're never working alone. You're always part of a team, even if sometimes our egos might allow us to think that it's just us as solitary geniuses. I don't believe in that at all, or I don't believe in any culture of the avant-garde. We're always working with or evolving along what came before us and how do we want to move into the future, and achieving goals. And how do you understand that within the framework, within your colleagues, friends, whatever system, it could be the art industry, but to really understand the interconnectedness of all of that, let's say. And so I think that it turns out that sports had a significant impact. It seems when I look back, and I'm still interested in sports. I was also interested in mediums outside of the art world. Really, I was more interested in, let's say, music and the music scene, although I wasn't ever good at playing or practicing instruments as I was in drawing, for example. So music, sports. In fact, all of these things are, products and expressions of the human imagination. So I get inspired right across all cultures and human behaviors and all mediums, not just contemporary art, where have made a living. And if I was bright enough to remember to run through some of the slide images, there's images of, let's say, exhibitions and projects that I presented that might lie outside of some of the strict paradigms of contemporary art.
Can people find that online maybe? Do you share your work anywhere?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, Audrey referred to putting her work on Instagram. I thought, well, that's just, I hip to that, with my own work, and because I saw these people selling the art on Instagram, I put paintings up there. I get like 6 likes from my friends, and that's about it.
You need her course.
So I don't know. Maybe if there's a chance, I'll run through some of those images where it is out there, and I guess some of the institutions I've worked with, maybe.
Thank you for that answer. That was great. Rodrigo, if you don't mind, my next question is for you. I was wondering if you could maybe tell us where you see yourself going with all of this like embodied research you've been doing and art creation. Say like 5 years from now, what do you kind of envision yourself doing with all of this?
It's so hard to project the future. I feel like, but thank you for the question, but I feel like after the pandemic, especially, my capacity to plan ahead has been different. Like, I feel like I'm living more in the present. And also I feel it's important to have a sense of flexibility with life. I don't have like, for some people it works to have just like a really specific goal. I don't have this specific goal in my career. I am open to the life experience, to the journey. and what can happen with the journey. And this led me here where I am right now. So I of course, I am a Virgo, so I am really organized. And I feel that it's extremely important to be organized. But yeah, I am enjoying more and more to work as a curator, and I have been also organizing some artist residencies. I directed 2 artist residencies in the last 2 years, and it was a great experience. One at SBC Gallery here in Montreal at the Belgo building, and the other one at Oxygen Art Center in BC. So I do see myself doing more this type of projects where I gather other artists and I help them with their creative processes. I like to do that, to guide other artists with their practices. And I never saw myself being a professor, but I am right now, like becoming a professor. I'm a lecturer. But I don't have this like rigid set to stone goal. For example, I will not be frustrated if I don't become a full-time professor. I feel like we need to be open. Otherwise, yeah, life experience gets really hard. Like, and it's important to project things in a way that we don't get frustrated. That's how I feel right now.
Thank you. Audrey, since you were talking about how you are consulting and stuff, I wanted to ask if you kind of have key qualities that you think like manifest in people that might want to become like an artist and have that as their career.
Yeah, well, I think that, well, you need to like be proud of your art, because that's what you do. And you need, if you want to make a living out of it, you need to, be proud of it and show it to the world. So I think you need to, well, first be like proud of what you said. And like you said, also some of my inspirations are, like one time actually I did like an interview for an internship like 5 years ago with the arts business, and I didn't get the internship. And I was really sad because it was like, I wasn't even getting paid. I was like, what do you mean I'm not getting it? And then they're the one who contacted me to do the Rail Mount like thing, and they paid me to work with them now. So for me, I was like, oh, one day I want to like work with them, but not like for free, and be like part of their team. So that worked. And so I think that, and also you need to be organized, like you said, because you wear many hats when you're a full-time artist, or when you're in the art world. I'm my own accountant, I'm my own marketing person, I'm my own photographer, I do like everything myself. So you need to be interested in a lot of things, and I think you need also to be able to go out of your own way, to reach out to people, to really put yourself out there, because even if you do the most beautiful art ever, but no one see it, like you won't make a living out of it. So I think those are really important, and you need to be interested or know people that are interested in the business world too, because like we all said, there's many side of being an artist, and you need to do some kind of business work too. So I think you need to have some interest in that, or learn in that field, or know people that can help you in that. But yeah, I think that's important. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Pascal, I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a bit about what a day in your life looks like what sort of goes on for you as someone in your field.
Okay. Well, I have a studio with staff, so I have 5 employees, which means that what I hear most of the day is, Pascal, when you have a minute. That's so. I do have to go from one thing to hop from a little admin to checking a couple of emails, and then back into the studio with my assistants to make sure that the sculptures are are the way that they, whatever, just the technical aspects of it. So I find it challenging, actually. Sometimes it's fun, but right now, at this point, I'm finding it a little bit too much. So, it's interesting because I'm listening to, your answers to the questions of like, what do you see yourself in 5 years? And I just don't want to have the Pascal when you have a minute. That's not on my list. What was the question again?
I'm just wondering about your day-to-day, what you do in a day.
I do a panel. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. I also teach at Concordia 2 afternoons, Thursdays and Fridays. And I see a student there. So I do that, and I also play squash after work. So, that really helps me forget everything except that little black ball that's like bouncing on a wall. And so it's really hard, to describe it without boring or discouraging young artists. But grant applications and applications for residencies. And I don't like being on a computer, but that is part also of a day, I guess, is, or even on my phone or anything that's electronic. I'd like to go back to clay when I can, but the reality is not, it's not 40 hours of play, my hands in clay.
Well, it sounds like every day is sort of different for you. So
yes.
I think that, at least to me, is encouraging. So.
Yeah, it's very different, definitely. And I'm not always in the studio, and sometimes I'm meeting with clients, sometimes, so it's just extremely varied, but it's a little exhausting. Sorry.
Thank you. No, that was great. I was wondering if we have some questions from the audience. If anybody has any specific questions they'd like to ask, we can bring the microphone around and...
Question? Okay.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. My question would be, anybody can answer this as well. When you were a student, did you see yourself kind of where you are today, or were you kind of picturing like a completely different thing? I know, Michael, you said this just kind of fell into your lap and it was a bit of a vanity project, but Rodrigo, you as somebody who's done the undergrad, the master's, and now the PhD, like, is this something that you maybe thought for yourself, the path that you would follow, if that kind of makes sense?
Well, I don't mind starting. When I was a student and then coming out of school, I had absolutely no hope at all as to what I was going to do, where the opportunities were. Was kind of, coming out of art school, you're on your own. I know if you're maybe coming out of the engineering department, you may have some companies competing for your services and recruiting. But to me, it did not look like there was any future at all in art. And that's what really lit a fire and inspired me to make it happen.
I'm still not finished searching. I recently enrolled in full-time cabinet making classes. So the end of my day, I go down to Boulevard Saint-Michel, and I'm in class from 5 in the afternoon till 10:30 p.m. For the next 16 months. So I still haven't found what it is I'm going to do. I'm doing it during the day. I'm doing the gallery. I'm loving it. Currently, I have space in my evenings. So no matter what you guys do, we tend to worry. I think I remember myself worrying when I was young, where am I going? What am I going to do? It falls into place. And everything you do, as I said, is valid. They're all little bits of Lego that sometimes you step on, but sometimes you build them into something really cool. And it's made up of all different colored blocks, and it doesn't look like the instructions, but it's still pretty cool.
For me, I felt like I was always someone that was really instigated. Like I never allowed myself to be stagnated. Like this was really important for me to keep going. And I feel like you need to search for the opportunities. You need to keep like applying for things, but also be aware of your health. Like Pascal said, like doing exercises. It seems to be like something so simple, but it's also really important because it's really easy to disconnect from your body with this kind of like constant search for what you want to do. So it's important to be mindful of your health, your body, your needs, your emotional needs, to build like a network of people that you trust. And I feel like also something that no one told me back then, but I learned in this journey is that like you always will find people that will see you, that you can be yourself. Like if you don't feel you fit in, don't stay long. Like keep going. I think that's it.
Do we have any other questions? I think I saw.
There's also a couple people joining us online, and if you have any questions, if you pop those into the chat, we can read them out. We do have one. Okay, I'll come around. All
right, this one is from Brandon Desormeaux. And Brandon says, hello, thank you all for being a part of the panel today. I recently achieved my BFA in art history and have since been a freelance photographer where I currently work commercially. I want to take a step away from the commercial side of photography and create photo works that fulfill me creatively with the goal to exhibit. What kind of advice would you give someone looking to make a transition into an artistic career? So from a commercial one.
So I think I navigate both. Well, I mean more than two worlds, but you know, commercial and doing my own sort of, I guess, more personal work that's not motivated by selling anything. And I find that it's really important for me. One of them, my commercial practice, obviously finances everything that I want to do that is non-commercial. So I would say, well, what I had mentioned before, I did a lot of the trade shows, the design shows, because I could just take a white space, or it wasn't white, it's just an empty space that I could rent out and put the stuff out there and see, you know, if people react or respond to it. And that's really all I wanted, was some response to things that I'm putting out, so that I can start a conversation with people and see, you know, where that goes. So I would say that, you know, keep your day job and try to find maybe some spaces or places, or whether it's online, but to really just go out there and put it out there, and maybe connect with people who you are, maybe you have some resonance with, and see if you can share a space, or you know, something like that. But anyway, I would just say go for it, and don't worry about like making a career out of it. Just do it first, you know, don't worry about the career part, because I think you really need to send out the signal that you're a creative and curious individual, and you're going to attract curious and creative individuals.
And I feel also that we say that you need to find the right opportunities, but I feel like you also need to create them. And if you want to like do that full time, like you did, you need to write some people that can, like you did for your clients, you need to create your opportunities. Me, I did my first solo exhibition a few years ago. Like I had no idea how to do it. I had a friend who had a space, and he said, "You want to do a show in 3 months?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I did one, and it went great. But if I've put myself out there, even though I thought I wasn't ready, but I was. So I think you need to create your own luck in a way.
Well, I think as Pascal mentioned, you have to find other like-minded photographers, galleries, venues that may resonate with the ideas of your work, and of course, looking at, there's numerous photo fairs, Photo Paris, Model Photo, which it's not called that anymore. What is it now? Anyhow, the month of photography here in Montreal, contact photography, APAD, which is an art fair that takes place in New York. So you have to be out there. You have to do the research. You have to be self-driven for sure, and to try and find those where your ideas connect first.
If I may, I get a lot of submissions to the art gallery from artists, and I would recommend that you don't listen to anyone, but stay humble at the same time. There's nothing I hate more than an arrogant artist. Just because I have told you that your work does not fit within my programming does not mean it's not valid, does not mean it's not good, does not mean you won't make a living from it. It just doesn't fit with what I'm presenting right now. So stay humble and keep grinding and create your opportunities. But know what your worth is also, your real worth, not your perceived imaginary inflated wealth, but worth. But know what you are truly worth, where you are in your career, what you're trying to achieve. Create those opportunities, create that space, and just be prepared for a lot of no. It's okay. It makes you stronger.
Yeah, I feel like the other day I went to a workshop about PhD, like life after the PhD. So I was in the audience, I was in the other side. And then one of the professors was talking about what he called like a rejection muscle, like that you need to build with time. In any field of the arts that you are, you need to have that. You need to be used with rejection. And yeah, that's part of the journey, and you learn a lot, and eventually you find your matches. Like you will match with people. I keep trying, and another thing that like Pascal said, like I feel like she said, like keep your day job. I feel like sometimes, for example, like since 2020, I am doing a PhD, and I became more and more theoretical, and I got kind of like distant from my practice. But it doesn't mean that I'm no longer an artist, right? Like, so when we are artists, we have creative minds, and we can use our creativity to survive in different contexts. So like keep doing that. And I feel like having the sense that some periods in our life are temporary, like they are just periods, and this makes you stronger to keep going, and then you can achieve what you really want afterwards. And that's it.
Thank you, guys. I would also like to add that in conjunction with this discussion, our group has also compiled a list of resources for young artists, students. It has opportunities, internships, jobs, call-outs, publications, which is available through our Instagram and also through the QR code we have posted up around the front of Force-Space. Thank you. I think we had another question right here.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So my question was about the art world is a lot about stuff that is not visual, like talking, like writing. And I feel like for me, a big reason why I went down that path was because there's a lot of things I cannot express with words. And I was just wondering if that's a struggle you had, like expressing yourself and having to write statements and stuff like that?
I think all artists do struggle with that. Of course, it's you're a visual artist because that's the way you feel you can best or most comfortable, or the way you enjoy expressing yourself. It's funny to me in the academic world, in the institutional academic world, they ask visual artists to be able to write essays and statements. And I always wonder, over there in the English department, after they write their stories, are they required to produce a series of paintings and drawings to go along with it? I think if you're to be able to articulate your work verbally or through written means is certainly an important tool and an advantage you have. But on the other hand, I don't know, I wonder, and a lot of successful artists that I know and that I've worked with, I mean, high-level successful artists don't have artist statements and aren't really artists that do writing. Now, you've got to have people around you, and you've got to be working with teams, as I said. Does anybody here know what Picasso's artist statement was? I don't think he had one. But if you're going to be in the academic environment, and if you want to survive in the increasingly complex art world that we live in, and world that we live in, you have to be as articulate in as many languages as possible, including social media, some people mention. How do you express yourself and navigate in the digital online world? But really, just I don't sweat it. The other thing, this is something I think I did, some of us did in art school at Concordia, is when we had to cough up these artist statements, I didn't know what to do, but I knew that the art history students had to write about art. So I would go to an art history student and maybe trade some drawings up and say, can you write an artist statement for me?
Oh, well, me, I'm really not that good at putting words like on my art, because I feel like my motivations are like in me, so it's kind of hard to verbalize it in a way. But yeah, like you said, sometimes you need to for like some applications or anything. But I have the chance to work with a gallery that does kind of that work for me, but we're really close, so they know what I'm thinking, they know what I mean and everything. I feel that I try to put words on my painting, not just as an artist statement, but just to give context. Sometimes that can do like the job. For example, at my last exhibition, when I went to different places to paint, I also wrote down on my journal a few keywords or a few sentences about the place where I went and how it inspired me. And then we printed those and we've put them next to the paintings. So I think that's another way easier way for me to just like talk about my painting without being too formal and like restraining.
We had an experiment at the beginning of when we opened the gallery. We knew we had to do critical writing or artist statements, and we procured the services of people outside of the art world. It was very interesting for me to have the layman's point of view on any particular artist or pieces of art. So we started off with a philosophy professor doing a few artist statements, a few analysis of pieces of art, and there were a few nuggets of interesting information in that. And what was important for me is that it was not someone from the art world who was going to discuss the particular shade of gray that Matisse used on a Sunday. That's inaccessible, that's almost snobby for people to talk about in polite society. So it was important for me, you're going to be showing your works to XYZ. Why not have them write about it? if I wasn't interested in people commenting on my work, I would keep it for myself. I would have my own little artist statement in my head, and this is why I do this, and never show it to anyone, because then I'm not under any threat of it being misconstrued or it being interpreted as something that I didn't want it to be interpreted as. Once you've shown it, it's in the public's hands. It's no longer your piece. It might have originated from you, but like a child, it grows on its own. So I mentioned it was an experiment. It was an experiment. It was a failed experiment. We got maybe 3 or 4 little nuggets of interesting information that we can use moving forward. Now my daughter is studying art history. She's doing her master's, and we are using her services to interview the artists, and we keep it in the family because she has a critical way of writing about these things, a knowledgeable way. Even though she's doing art history and we do contemporary art, she doesn't particularly always like what we're showing, but she has a professional way to talk about it. So I would say that the artist is not the best person to describe their work, if I may.
Thank you. Phone a friend, it sounds like. Oh, I think we have another question.
Hi, so maybe it was said already, but my question was more, how did your parents react when you told them that you were going to art? We're talking about like the social pressure, or maybe the outside pressure, maybe family, friends.
My parents are dead. I didn't have to deal with that.
Like my mother was always more supporting to my creative side, and she would like even stimulate me to draw when I was a child, and we would do creative things together. But my father was really afraid like that I would be not someone successful in life, and he encouraged me to go to a more commercial side of the cultural realm. Kind of like he pushed me to do design, industrial design. And I was like, no, that's not what I want. And I needed to really stand up for what I wanted. And I don't regret it, yeah. But like, there's always some resistance, but if it's what you really want, you can always find some ways.
Yeah, I didn't have. I mean, my parents didn't discourage my artwork because I was when I was younger, almost obsessed with drawing, and even by the time I was maybe 14 years old, I could draw almost photographic realism style. So I was good at it, but you know, growing up in a working class environment in Hamilton, this was not something that was encouraged. It was always, you know, that would be a nice hobby, but you have to do something serious, or to, you know, to make a living. Parents, I know this, are concerned about their children, you know, growing up and being able to make, you know, to support themselves. So, and it is tough to make a living and to survive in the art world, as I think we've, you know, it's doable for sure, as I think we've heard, but nobody here so far said it was easy. So I think, yeah, in my case, though, I feel like having had some work and life experience in other fields, I'm not really fit for anything else other than existing in the world of culture and art.
Yeah, well, for me, it's really recent because it's been like a few years that I've been painting full time. But yeah, I think that I showed them that I was serious about it and that I wanted to do that full time, and I worked a lot for it. So they saw that it was not just for fun. And, you know, I also noticed that there was a lot of marketing going to art. So I got a job as a marketing director for a year at Event Space. So I learned a lot about marketing, all of that too, after that work on my art practice. So I think just showing them that I'm serious about it, and I mean, it's it's my choice, so they were supportive. And also, well, now, you know, I'm living on my own, I do my own thing, I have nothing to prove. I want to do that for myself, and if I'm happy and I'm not stressed about it, well, sometimes I am, but I'm still having a lot of fun and it works, but they're happy for me.
I'm thinking about my son, actually, who's an artist. So I'm going to talk as a parent. Because my parents were neither here nor there, physically, emotionally, and you know, so I could do whatever I wanted, which didn't help. Actually, I had a lot of anxiety about what I wanted to do in terms of this idea, which seems very packaged, you know, to be an artist. So it seems it's not realistic. It's something, as you mentioned before, it's more diffuse, and it's about living and being alive and being curious. But as a parent of an artist, I also see him struggling and having anxiety because it's not very clear, and he doesn't have a straight line in his practice because he's interested in a million things, and so sometimes it takes the form of video, performance, DJ, painting, drawing, collective work. Is very much into working with other people. And so he loves it, and I encourage it 100%. But I also am very empathic about the fact that it can cause a lot of stress, because if you're going on social media and you're seeing your young artist who's like very focused and who's already like successful, you know, it can be really, really hard. So, you know, anyway, as a parent, I would say that I understand that anxiety, and I understand the FOMO and, you know, comparing yourself to whatever's being presented to you on social media mostly, I guess, and in galleries. You know, if somebody has a solo show and they're 23, or you're like, damn, I'm 27 and what's going on with my life? So yeah, you know, I would say that, well, as a parent, I totally understand, but hopefully you do have parents that do understand, and if you don't, hit me up on Instagram. I'll talk to you.
I was just wondering, Audrey, if you could talk about how you took a step back from school and have worked in various jobs and as a professional artist, and now are returning to school. Are there like some pros, some cons? Do you think that it was, you know, beneficial to your career? Are there connections that you're making in the classroom that you were like, oh, I've been able to do this, you know, without realizing that you've done that? If you could just talk a little bit about the choice to step away from higher education and then go back to it with your professional experience.
Yeah, well, for me, in a way, well, how I started painting was that I've been doing music all my life. I've been doing a lot of graphism, and I've always been into art. And when I was like 19, a friend of mine, like 17, around that, a friend of mine who knew I was into art, he asked me if I could do a painting for him, which like I've never painted before, but I was like, yeah, sure, for fun. And while doing his painting, I had so much fun and I loved it. And then another friend asked me if I could do one, and then it grew like that. And I found a big interest, a passion that way. So I was really lucky in how it went. So it kind of, once it started to grow, and I missed really with social media, is that I grew a lot. I stopped school in a way. Well, first because the school I was doing, factory, was over, and my art was doing good, so I wanted to really focus on that. So, and then now I'm taking few classes at UQAM, and I finished one certificate like a year ago in cultural action, and now I'm doing some classes in art, some classes in communication. And what I find hard about it is that since I'm not in one program, I don't really know the people in my class. You know, like I do some work with them, but I'm not like doing a 3 years or 4 years program. So I'm not like on my own, I'm not meeting a lot of people in my class, but I find it really interesting to have some new knowledge. And, I'm doing like a radio class, which is random, but it helps me because when I'm doing like interviews or other things, it helps me that way. So for me, the perfect balance was like taking a few classes a semester and having enough time to do my work. I also worked as a marketing director for a year. I worked in business development. I worked with galleries. I worked with a lot of people in the cultural world. And I think it's really interesting to have insight from the inside. So that way I know what's going on in the art world. And I took everything I could from those jobs to put them in my own practice. Even if it was not even if I'm in communication and there's nothing, I don't paint when I'm in classes, I still take everything I can to put them in my own career.
Thanks for that response. That was helpful, I think.
I think we have one more question.
Yeah.
I was curious to know that, after being a part of the art world or having become part of it, do you find that your motivation has changed, from when you first started being a creative or calling yourself a creative? Has it grown? ...
I find it's interesting because at this point, I feel like I've done things that I never expected that I would get to a certain point in terms of my career. But I'm also kind of feeling this feeling of what next, and I don't like that. It's like I don't want a next in a sense, and I'd like to just say this is wonderful and just kind of sit in this, enjoying where I'm at. But at the same time, it's good because I was thinking about something earlier, how we have cycles as artists, and you may, if when you're a bit younger, you have less years behind you, it's kind of hard to see those cycles. For example, for me, it's about 18 months. So I have these 18 months with nothing, and then 6 months of produce, and then it's like, oh my God, I've got no ideas left, So there's, kind of, at this point, I could just speak of what's happening right now for me, but it's more of that quiet period, but of gestation. So, but I do feel that right now I would just want to get a little bit more away from institutions, a little bit more personal. It's always personal, but just getting a little bit more in the margins, creating things that are just a little bit more, because I have a day job, so I can sort of start feeding something that I feel is really critical, that needs to emerge and be made. So.
I think there's always, I think as you move through life or a career in the arts, there's always ideas, things that come up, new things. I feel in the world of creativity and being a creative, there's just always new ideas. Everything is evolving all the time, and the world changes almost on a daily basis. So I think the motivations will change. I think that's very exciting. I think that's what you want. I think that's what keeps you going. Maybe the worst thing in art or life is to be static and try and hold on to something, because life just doesn't work like that. Everything's always evolving and mutating, permutating, taking other forms as you and the world evolves. So in the art world, I think, as you're trained as an artist or a curator or a writer or a teacher or a gallerist, there's always new things coming up and new ideas, new visions, new opportunities.
I have a bit of a buzzkill in this topic. I take your beautiful, heartfelt, passionate pieces and I turn them into a product. I turn it into a cold commodity on my website. And I have to think about how do I market this product? And I can't treat it like a everyday product, because if your gray sweatshirts are selling well, you know to order more gray sweatshirts. I don't have a line of gray sweatshirts. I have one piece that had a little bit of gray in it. And just because that sold to one person doesn't mean the next piece with a little bit of gray in it is going to have the same impact on someone. So I have the unfortunate job of seeing beautiful things come in and turning them into a small thumbnail with a price attached to it. I get overloaded by art. I do art fairs. I do maybe 6, 7 art fairs a year that I attend to look for new artists with the team. I'm getting emails almost on a daily basis of portfolios. So there are periods where I'm overloaded completely and I need to step back and step away and not look at art or just look at a blank piece of paper for 24 hours. So I have to keep reminding myself that the artists are passionate about what they're doing, the collectors are passionate about collecting. I have to maintain that passion. I have to be that bridge of passion. So even though I get down feeling like things are commodities sometimes, I have to remind myself that these are unique, special snowflakes that somebody is going to put up on their wall and be in love with for X amount of time.
Yeah, I feel like, just complimenting, like it's in the same line as what you were saying, but I feel I used to be like way more urgent about my practice. I would like create things because I felt like they needed to be in the world. And nowadays my pace is really different. I am way slower with my creative process, but the ideas are still coming, and I'm just like, I guess like I have more maturity to wait for them to shape themselves into something else. Like, and sometimes I write things that then will become something else, or like an idea that originally was an installation or a drawing can become part of a video art. You know, like things evolve, and I am way less urgent with my process. And yeah, like I agree that sometimes you need to just take a break of everything and to feel inspired again, to feel motivated again, because it's a kind of energy that you have, and sometimes this energy is drained by many things. Like creative people are usually more sensitive to the world, and it's where the creativity arises from. So it's like sometimes you need to take it slow, take some time to recharge.
Thank you, everyone. Enrich yourselves. One question here.
I kind of have a question. I've been debating asking it this whole time, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. What do you feel the art world needs? And that's kind of vague. And when I think of the art world, I sometimes think about like there's so many artists and there's so many galleries and there's so many things going on, but it can be answered in any way. And I don't know if there is an answer, but what do you feel the art world needs or would benefit from moving forward?
if I may, we've recently, this past year, seen some ridiculous events happen in the art world. I'm specifically talking about a banana taped to a wall, which sold twice, somehow. When the everyday collector, which is anybody, it's all of you. If you have $5 to spend on art, you're a collector. When the everyday collector sees that art is worth millions of dollars, you can get away with selling a duct tape banana for millions of dollars, it kind of sours most people to the art world. They see it as a snobby society, not for them, not a game for them to play. And art needs a kick in the ass to say, this is art. It exists as art. These experiments, these bananas, I'm fixated with the banana, I'm sorry. But it was Damien Hirst before, it was whatever. Once you wrestle art away from those in their ivory towers and you give it to everyone, then it becomes something that enriches people's lives. So, in my opinion, the art world needs a swift kick in the teeth to stop taking itself so seriously and stop being so snobby. That's my point of view.
Well, I'd like to disagree with that. The Comedian by Maurizio Catalan is probably one of the most important artworks that's been produced and reflects so much about what the world is today, because it does call into conversation the money. But I think it's the world that needs more of the art world in it. Also referring to that, the way that work is treated in the media, it didn't really ever talk about what the artist said it was about or what the issues were. It was just a spectacle, which of course the artist knew it would be. But I think it's a world that is oftentimes, seems to me, being drained of unfettered imagination and unlimited creativity is going to be a bleak world. And so I think people that are in the art world right now, this I say current generation of people in the art world, need to be out in the world even more and to bring the ideas of artists, poets, and philosophers forward to sometimes counterbalance what we see as maybe the dominant discourse, which is currently largely loudmouth schnooks and people that I guess claim to be business geniuses. So the art world, the world needs the art world, and for that to happen, more people need to be engaged in the discourse of the art world. And of course, sometimes the art world can create its own barriers for people by being a very closed discourse, which the contemporary art world and academia especially can be. But there are more people that go to art galleries and art museums and art fairs around the world than ever before. So the world needs more art.
Yeah, and I also feel that for artists, there's like this pressure to find your signature style, like once you get out of school, or that you need to like have an artist statement that's really professional for all your life. I feel like there's this pressure to like know what you're gonna do and put yourself kind of in a box of what you're gonna do and do that for the rest of your life. And for me, that was a struggle for a long time because I started painting, like I said, and I've posted them on social medias. So I had like this kind of signature that I need to have. But then a few months or years after that, I wasn't interested in the same kind of art. I wanted to change what I was doing, but I kind of had already this style that I was doing that I had to stuck to, but I didn't. So I feel like there's this kind of pressure, and that there's this kind of snobby, like you said, that you need to be in a certain box if you want to. You need to be serious and professional, and that includes many things like your signature and everything. So yeah, I feel like I don't know how, but like represent, like having more representation for artists that are still figuring it out, that are still testing, and make that like a okay thing to just try new things and experiment with it.
This is really interesting because I'm thinking about two things. One of them is the art world, there's the institutionalization of it, and then there's capitalism and commodification, and those two elements are buzzkills, you know, in terms of creativity. And so I like what David was saying about more art in the world, and I think the art world as we know it right now, with those structures, which are structures of power and power domination, they need to be chipped away at, whether it's done very gently and surreptitiously, which I find some of the artwork that I find most exciting is the one that's the less splashy visually or whatever. Yeah, so I think it just needs to be dissolved a little, you know, into letting these the world and the artists really be a part of it, like really weave itself inside it, and hopefully start chipping away at those power structures. And I think that's what artists are there for.
I feel like we need to include more worldviews, different worldviews, because we still have a really hegemonic structure underneath the art world. And these operations of the hegemony will impact the agency of artists who are marginalized, or like we live right now the so-called decolonial turn in the art world. Somehow, like there is more diversity, but there is not enough inclusion of different perceptions. So sometimes like people that are marginalized are only co-opted by these agendas, and we are still operating under the same structure. So I hope for the future that the art world will incorporate different structures, will be open to actually negotiate the structures and invite people to contribute to the change, and not only to be tokenized, and not only to be representing a specific group or community. And I do feel, I agree with everyone that like we need to have, it's a problem that academia has, as David was saying, like as well, that we begin to be so abstract about feeling, about like knowledge and about art itself, that it becomes detached from reality, detached from people's lives. So it's a problem in academia that is also transferred to the art world, and in which people feel like less, like they feel they don't belong in these discourses. They feel they can't be there. But yeah, so I do feel like there are multiple things happening right now. There's not just like a single thing happening, which is exciting. Like we are living in times that we do have multiple narratives, at least being more visible. So yeah, I hope that there will be a more structural change.
Just wanted to come back, and I agree with David's points. Everybody is making some very valid points here. I would argue that the most important thing that the art world needs is you, is each and every one of you realizing what power you have in the art world. So whether it's a gang of you guys going to a swanky gallery in Westmount and walking in as the potential clients that you are, not being intimidated by the person at the reception who's ignoring you, just walking in and inhabiting that space. That is a space for you, for each and every one of you to inhabit. Whether you have $30,000 to buy a photo or not, doesn't matter. That is a free art gallery for you. So I encourage you guys to inhabit those spaces. Go to the vernissage, go support your local artists. That is what art needs. Art needs to be flooded by Monsieur et Madame tout le monde. You have this blue chip art world of people generating generational wealth and manipulating entire art markets. I don't think that's what we're here talking about today, but that's the idea that we get when we talk about the art world. That's not the art world. The art world is Samson putting on his first art show and finding artists all around, and you guys going and encouraging that, and you guys coming to our vernissage, next one on the 30th of January, Thursday. Liz Capote, a wonderful Cuban artist. It is in your hands to make, to flood the market with art. What we're seeing, Rodrigo, what you were mentioning, we are seeing new voices emerge, not just as token voices, not just as, oh, this is hot right now, let me do a show on that. You know, that's something we refuse to do as a gallery, to pander. What we see in our travels are galleries in the States that are completely outside of the white male gallery system, and they are making noise. They're making it in Chicago, in Toronto. Montreal is a challenge for diversity. It is really a challenge. That's a reality that we all live with. You were in an English school in Montreal. We all know that it's a challenge. But once these voices of diversity have their own spending power and have their own capital to start their art projects or start their galleries, that's when it becomes interesting. That's when it becomes a real conversation, and not just me, the middle-aged white person, putting on a black artist because it's hot right now. So the power is in your hands to have your voice heard.
Thank you. Oh, it looks like we have more questions. Thanks for that question also, brave audience member. That was a good one.
Thank you so much again for your amazing discussions. But I had one question. It might be a stupid question, but I really wanted to know your opinion. I'm not sure if it was mentioned before because I missed some portion of the talks, but I really wanted to know like your opinion. Is it on even?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. I really wanted to know like your opinion about the AI, how it affects the careers in art. Like for example, in 10 years, how's your opinion in general about it? Are you very pessimistic about it? Like it kind of destroys the art world, or is it just like a tool like any other tool? People can use it in a good or bad way. I really like to know your opinion too. Thank you.
Well, I think with any technology, we don't know what the effect is going to be. Of course, artists have been in on AI and other technologies really early. So, and what happens oftentimes, it even goes back to the origins of video art. People have access to tools, and artists get in there and experiment and just do things and mess things up, and 1,000 people are going to do something, and one person's going to do something interesting and significant with it. I think it's going to be a tool like another tool that's going to have positive and less positive effects. But I don't have, I guess, an opinion on what do I think it's going to look like in 10 years.
From an administrative point of view, it's been very helpful. Any emails that I have to write, any submissions, even in doing some writing for certain shows, it's been tremendously helpful. For anything that's translation here again in Montreal, it's been incredible. you know, as David says, any technology has the ability to be dangerous and to be uplifting simultaneously. And the people that are using AI, whether it's for video production, whether it's for image production, whether it's to help with their ideas, you can see very quickly the ones that are standing above the other ones. So as David mentioned, to me, it's another tool to be used or abused as you see fit.
I think that an original piece, it's like something that if you're interested in a piece, it speaks to you. You have like emotion watching it, looking at it. So I feel like robots couldn't do that. And I feel also that when you buy a piece or when you're interested in a piece, I noticed that a lot of my clients, they want to know who I am as an artist, what motivates me, because every time they look at their painting in their living room, they're thinking about me in a way for 1 second, but they still are, because I made the piece. So I feel like you don't want to think about a robot or AI when you see a piece, but I think it can be used as a tool, like they said. I heard about this McGill startup. It's called Acrylic Robots, and they put like sensor, I think, on the brush of an artist, and once the painting is done, they don't do prints, but they recreate the painting. They don't sell it as an original, of course. The artists sell the painting, and then they do prints, but with a real brush with like AI, so that you have the texture, you have the same technique that the artist used. So I think if it's used correctly, it can be interesting. So yeah, I think I'm not really nervous about AI.
I find it interesting that your perspective, because it's the perspective of whether artwork is original or not. But I was also finding it interesting to talk about it as a tool, like David was mentioning, because if you're really curious and you like to disrupt things, I think it could be really fun to play around with that and see what happens. Not necessarily to generate or in the goal of having something that is unique and original, but just in terms of playing with it, play and engaging and seeing. And I think that that's one thing that artists do really well, is disrupt and be curious. So I don't know, this kind of another perspective, but I think is quite valid what you were saying as well. So that's all.
I think like when we think about historical terms, for example, like in art, this discussion has happened before, not with AI, but like with the idea of originality, like when the notion of ready-mades was created, or conceptual art. So like the art world has always been this place for disruption and for questioning our societal values, our human values even. So I feel like this is another tool, as you were saying. But of course, there are some people losing their jobs, like people that work with illustration. And so like this impact a portion of professionals for sure in the art field. But I do think also like technology, like all sort of technologies are cyclical as well. And like I was still lucky enough to live in an analogical generation, and I saw the process of like the really quick process of like analogical technologies becoming digital and virtual and AI now. So it's really fast, but we are humans, and like our humanity makes the difference. And I feel like in the arts, we need that. Like we know that we are always producing symbolic value, and we need that. Like that's what we are searching for. Like, and we cannot lose track of that. I think like the human aspect of art, and yeah, the symbolic aspect of it. For me, like art is like this really safe space, is maybe the only space that is not capitalized for me, like as I don't commercialize my art. So it's like a really protected space for me where I manifest my subjectivity in ways that cannot be co-opted by AI or other tools. So like, if we think about like this discussion of like analogical and digital, we are living now like the return of vinyls. I love vinyls, for example, myself, even though we have like, such a easy access to streaming platforms that we could just play a song here. People still enjoy playing a vinyl and buying a vinyl and supporting an artist. So it's like, I feel it's like in the same line of thought.
Thank you, and I think we have time for maybe one more question, and then.
Hi, thank you for everything. I just wanted to know, maybe it's been asked, maybe it was not. I just wanted to know if there's anything you regret doing or not doing regarding your career, and just why.
Yeah, I should have stayed being an artist. Getting caught up in administration, that was a bad move. No, no, it was fantastic. I feel like, again, at the time when you're just coming out of school, and at that time I was saying earlier, I didn't know what was going on, what was happening. There didn't seem to be any hope. All of these, everything seemed to have already been done. You had older people telling you how the world was somehow better, the art world was better previously in some other period of time, and maybe I got maybe believed that a little bit, and so as let's say eccentric as some of the earlier endeavors were in terms of warehouse shows, or some of the earlier shows done at the Bronfman Center or at the Contemporary Art Museum, I think it could have been even more eccentric, could have been crazier, could have been edgier, could have been wilder. But I think, really, I don't have, there's always, you can only take one road, really. I think in life you're doing one thing, one direction. You can't, although I've done things in many directions, but I guess you can't, you're moving forward all the time. But I think, maybe the one thing I would say is when right now is actually the best time ever to be an artist, because this is your time now. The world's always been full of challenges, and I would say don't listen to geezers that'll tell you that somehow there was some better time before. And maybe I regret that I didn't realize that at the time.
I find the common thing with people reminiscing that the past were better days is that they were younger in the past and they were full of hope, and that's why the past was better. We look at the past with these rose-colored lenses, but David's right. Today is the day. Today is the day when you can have a career as an artist or in your passion without the giant support structures. Our role as a gallery has changed tremendously in that it's not simply artists giving us artwork and saying, go sell it, go create a persona for me, go do all, the rest of the work. These are collaborations that we're having with artists, and many artists don't require a gallery. Many artists can go to their own art fairs, and so you don't necessarily need that support structure today. It can be nice to have if you find the right fit, but you have more power in your own hands because of these things than we ever did before, I think. So to coin a popular meme, I have no regrets because I wouldn't be sitting here today without all my previous mistakes.
I feel like, yeah, we even when we make mistakes, we learn. So like, and we are like, at some point we were talking about like how sometimes we are in the process and you think eventually you will know how to navigate better a certain situation, but you are constantly learning through navigating. So yeah, and Madonna also said like absolutely no regrets. So I think it's a good way to to think.
Well, I'm young in this field, so I don't regret anything. Of course, there's like some things I look back on and I was like, oh, that I should not have done this. Like it could be some work with galleries, like you said, that I just take the work and it's really not fun, and I didn't feel like myself during those times. So, but it brought me to where I am today, so that's fine. Well, it's great. And also, yeah, so I think that if you know your boundaries, you know what you stand for, and that you, like you said, you can have people helping you, but if you do your own thing and you know what you're aiming for and what you like to do with, like social media can help, or, reaching out to some people, I think, well, I don't have any regrets, and I really enjoy doing my own path in a way, with, of course, having help from galleries and other people, but yeah.
Well, I was just thinking that I guess I do have the regret of like giving so much space to self-doubt when I was younger. But at the same time, it has given me so much more empathy for everybody around me who experiences that, and also sort of gives me a lot of awareness of what it's like when you have less of it. And so, in a sense, it's life experience as you're all mentioning. So is it a regret or not? I don't know, but I would say definitely something that I would say to, not heed to that voice of self-doubt so much. A little bit is good, but not too much.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that you guys were able to come have this discussion today. Thanks to the audience for all your lovely questions. And yeah, for sharing your experiences and your comments. I'm sure everyone's gonna leave today feeling inspired. I'm feeling inspired. So I just wanted to let everyone know also, Concordi'art is going to be organizing a student exhibition, and we're looking for artists and jurors if you're not the visual artist type. If you're, looking for opportunities. We also have, as I mentioned before, the list of resources that is going to be ever growing, hopefully, that you can refer to for opportunities. And I'd like to also thank Fourth Space for helping us facilitate this event and running it so smoothly. It's great. Thank you. And feel free to help yourself to some coffee at the back table, everyone. And I'll hand it over to Doug. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. And also thank you to all of Concordi'art for bringing this panel together, bringing this group together for this conversation. We really appreciate that. It's great to have you. Just to let you know, we'll be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now, but it remains available on our YouTube channel. You should revisit it. You should share it. But you should also have a great afternoon. Thank you.